It happened again. I said 3, and then he started talking. It happens 3 out of 4 episodes. Darren Millard begins the intro, and there goes David Hutchison, who's like the most mature out of all of us, but always has to get one last thought in. Welcome to InGoal Radio, the podcast, The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for Sports Langley, our major sponsor, and boy, do they have something cool on the floor. A brand new product from a manufacturer that I don't think has ever made this product before. That's part of our gear segment this week, Woody.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna leave that as a tease, folks, and a reminder to check our YouTube page because you can find it there as well to get visuals on it. Brand new product that, frankly, we didn't see coming until we walked into the hockey shop and they had it for us. So exciting times, and there's lots of exciting things happening over at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports right now. The Hockey Shop in Langley, hockeyshop.com. It's new gear time. You've heard us over the past several weeks launch the new Warrior line. Well, we've got new stuff coming in the following weeks from CCM, from Bauer. We've got new gear basically lined up to talk about on the InGoal Radio podcast from here through August already. And that means we can only do one a week, but a lot of this stuff launches immediately at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. So be like Darren, be over there checking it out, looking for the new gear every week. And as we tell you all the time, new launches means old stuff goes on sale. So Cam has got discounts marked on previous lines from all the major manufacturers as he tries to clear space on the shelves for the new gear that's arriving. Make sure you check it out. Chance to save on the old, chance to be ahead of the curve on the new, all over at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports in Langley or thehockeyshop.com.
We asked for some feedback. We told everybody how much we love hearing from our listeners, and boy, did they respond, Hutch.
Sure did. We got a whole pile of emails come in this week, which we share around the group and we talk about. Thank you to everybody who sends them in. We did say we do a bit of a roundup episode at some point where we bring some of them in. Won't be this week, folks, because busy playoff time, lots going on. I just wanted to mention really quickly, though, a big thank you to Mike Baker. Mike is a beer league goalie. He's a businessman, and he is an artist, both visual and musical, from Idaho. He sent us a link to his music. And while it's very diverse in its theme, it does include a full album of 16 tracks dedicated to goaltending and everything around it, even being a Zamboni driver, which Mike also was. Look, I'll be honest, when somebody sends me a track of their music or anything to click on these days, I get a little bit nervous, but I did. I clicked. I opened it. I thought, oh no, here we go. Here's some music about goaltending. This is going to be corny. It was anything but. Wow is what I said the second that track started playing. I've shared it with a pile of people. I'm so excited about it. Mike, thank you for being a great artist. Thank you for being a great member of the goalie community. We'll maybe talk about this a little bit later down the line, boys, but just to let you know, loved Mike's music. We will share a link to his Spotify page with this episode, and we will take you out of this episode with the first song I listened to on his album called Behind the Mask, and it's the thing that got me hooked on his music. Still listen to it while I work now.
Wow. Behind the Mask.
That's
what genre are we talking? Country, metal?
Country. Yeah, it's country. If you're a country fan, you're really going to enjoy this, I think. So
he definitely picked the right guy to send it to. If he'd sent it to me, we might not have got very far down that listening pleasure part.
Yes, if you've got some old school rap or something like that, that's what Woody's the guy you want to send it to.
Definitely, I'll take that. Hutch can have the country.
I'll throw the old school stuff into the current theme of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We got the guys that were on the bubble coming into the playoffs have really stepped up in the sense of Stuart Skinner's been in, out, in, and Freddie Anderson is just owning it right now. 2 great stories.
Yeah, and I think let's start with Skinner because he's off to the conference final for the second straight time. In a Canadian market, and I do radio weekly in that market, and the amount of pointed questions that he has to answer, that I have to answer as part of my job there, and answer honestly about his performance early in the playoffs. And we talked about it here, like he had an expected save percentage of .872. Like the team did not play well at the beginning of that first round series against LA. They gave up more high danger chances in the first game than they did in any single game on their run to the Cup final last year. But at the same time, Stewart was, I think, 9 of 19 on the high danger stuff. So, you need to make some tough saves too. And so he loses the net. And with all the focus and spotlight that comes with that in a market like that at a time of year like this in the Stanley Cup, expectations, aspirations that team has after getting to Game 7 last year, I can't imagine what that was like to lose the net. Still be supportive of Calvin Pickard, who was fully deserving. He did really good on the high danger stuff as the Oilers also tightened up their game in front of him. And then to have to come back and to do what he did, 2 straight shutouts. I thought in Game 4 especially, where there were more chances to face, he was really good. His game looks tight. It looks clean. He's not on his stomach as often. He's sort of holding his knees and staying over top of them. Forget the physical and the technical, the mental side of it for Stuart Skinner, who I've always loved his approach and his growth mindset. Kudos to him. Great job by him and to Dustin Schwartz, the goalie coach, who takes a lot of heat in that market, for getting him ready to come back and sort of have those aspects of his game dialed in. So credit to everyone all around, as well as to Calvin Pickard for being 6-0, and interesting decisions ahead for the Edmonton Oilers in terms of who starts when Calvin is healthy, but a decision that you make from a positive light as opposed to the conversations around the position early in the playoffs.
And what about Frederik Andersen and his performance through almost 2 rounds?
Best goalie in the playoffs so far by the numbers, at least. Adjusted save percentage, goals saved above expected. For sure, Carolina, much like Edmonton since the goaltending change, has become a better defensive team. But on a, expected save percentage, performance relative to environment, so how he's playing relative to the quality of shots he's faced, no starter has been better in the postseason, and by a significant margin, than Freddie Andersen so far. I think the big thing to me, and we'll see after we record this, is how much longer that series lasts, because you worry about wear and tear and games played as the postseason goes on for him.
Right.
In some ways, getting injured in round 1, while not ideal, gave him a break that I don't know he otherwise gets. They get through round 1 with Pyotr Kochetkov, and he comes back. Freddie Andersen comes back in the second round. Having a break between the conference finals, I think, would be beneficial, just because this is not a guy who has played every second night for a considerable stretch over the past several years.
So Freddie got his net back. Do you think Calvin Pickard returns?
I don't know how you take a guy out who's 6-0, hasn't lost in the playoffs, the team play, and yet
how do you
Stu's
take a guy out who's got 2 shutouts in a row?
Yeah.
Back-to-back shutouts. At the end of the day, you might need both anyways, right? And they've kind of been open about that. You might need to.
That's the best point. Yeah.
And the difference would be Pickard's lost his net to injury, right? So at the end of the day, this may also come down to matchups, styles and strengths, right? The one thing that I didn't think Vegas generated much of after Skinner came back, especially in the last 2 games, was stuff off the rush. And they're normally a good rush team. They didn't generate much, if anything, off the rush. And that's an area where if you can get out in the open ice, I mean, obviously it's harder on any goaltender, but, strengths and weaknesses being relative, I'm taking Pickard in more of a skating situation than I am Stuart Skinner, at least on the body of work, although Stu's, like I said, been really good in the last 2.
I would be willing to bet, hockey coaches being hockey coaches, it will turn into a win and you're in situation. And they won't pull out the guy that's got 2 shutouts in a row, whether Pickard's healthy or not. But as soon as there's a loss, Pickard will be back in. That's my guess.
Might depend on how those losses look. And hey, listen, multiple goalies in different situations. Yeah. Multiple goalies in different situations. Toronto too. Is Anthony Stolarz ready to come back as they face elimination in Game 6?
Well, that's probably a little easier one, isn't it? Just based on how the last game went. And I'm not judging Joseph Woll on that one. I'm just, like I said, winning you're in seems to be a culture in hockey. If there's a question, Connor Hellebuck, obviously league MVP candidate, is a different situation.
Well, and the Toronto one to me would have been really interesting if Stolarz had been ready for Game 5. That's where, because you're right, you're coming off a loss, but it was a close loss in which Joseph Woll was your best player. Yeah. If he had been ready for Game 5 back in Toronto, you're right, it's an easier decision because they got whacked in Game 5 with Woll in net. If that's, I wish we had the opportunity to sort of know which way they lean. Did they just switch because of a loss in Game 4, or the fact that Woll was your best player in that loss give him a chance to get Game 5? Again, we'll never know, but I'm with Hutch. That's probably just the old school mandate would have taken over.
Well, if you're not playing right now and you're waiting to get back in, we've got some methods to keep everybody sharp. Let's start with Visual Edge, who supply our pro reads.
Yeah, and pro reads this week. Speaking of Joseph Woll, we've got a great one as we wind down the extended sit-down video session from last week. What's it like to face Alexander Ovechkin on a breakaway? Joseph Woll explains. Watch his video with us. Walks us through it. Not just Ovechkin in particular, but his keys to managing a breakaway in terms of stance, in terms of depth, in terms of what you're looking for, playing in your eyes, not your body. It's all part of a nearly 4-minute video breakdown with Joseph Woll that is exclusively at InGoalMag.com right now and brought to you by our friends over at Visual Edge. So Woll does a great job, and we've got, I think, what is this, Hutch? Our 13th or 14th video session with Joseph?
I believe it is 14 with Joseph, and we're sitting at just over 280 in the entire library of pro reads.
So there is no better way, and NHL goalie coaches have told us, for young goalies, actually, we know other pros that watch it, to learn to read the game than through our pro read segments, including guys like Joseph Woll, who is also a Visual Edge, past Visual Edge user, has used the program. No better way to learn to read the game than through pro reads. No better way to see the game better, whether it's tracking a puck, coming at you, convergence, or being able to pull off of things in tight and see the entire zone, divergence. Those are just two of the many visual skills that Visual Edge will help you dial in and improve with their online-based visual and cognitive training tools. InGoal readers, even if you're just listening to this, you get a discount. If you're a subscriber to Premium, you get double the discount on a monthly subscription to Visual Edge. Yes, they've started monthly subscriptions here in the past couple of months. You don't have to commit for the whole year. You can get in, try it for a couple of months. Watch your eyes get better. Watch your visual attachment. Watch your visual skills all get better using Visual Edge. As Cam Talbot told us, finding pucks through screens. Make sure you check it out in our Pro Read segment each week. Your special code to get the double discount as an InGoal Premium member. Start using Visual Edge and start seeing the game and reading the game better.
Want to play a game?
Love to.
No, I watched that movie called Drop with my wife this week, and that's how it starts.
Oh my goodness! No chance I'm seeing that. Okay, this is Pick Your Poison. And remember, when you play Pick Your Poison, you're headed for something uncomfortable, but you're just picking maybe the least painful. Alexander Ovechkin on a breakaway or Alexander Ovechkin off his one-timer in his power play. Which do you think you would have a better chance of stopping?
The breakaway in a heartbeat. Not to mention, you just said pick your poison, the one that might be the least painful. I'm probably not getting drilled in the melon on a breakaway, but that 1T, yeah, I would love to see the 1T, but maybe if I could be behind a little bit of protective plexiglass or something, I'd love to know what that's like.
I had this conversation with a person in the hockey world maybe 5 weeks ago. And the idea of experiencing that shot, which Woody's talked about in curves and dips and doos, a breakaway is just a breakaway to me with Ovi. I want to experience that one-timer just to see it. And if that's the way I'm going out, that's the way I'm going out.
Okay, yeah, but you asked me to pick my poison and which one maybe I thought I could stop. Yeah, but true. If we're just which one would you like to experience? Yeah, the 1T all day long.
I'm the same way. My default went to which one do I have a chance to not stop but survive, and I'm taking the breakaway because the worst I'm doing there is pulling a groin, not picking teeth out of my mask after. But from an experience standpoint, now I'll switch over to Darren's. I just once, I would love to be in there making a push to my right as he winds up full bore just to see what it's like. And when I say see what it's like, that's thanks to having started to work a little more with Visual Edge. Maybe I would actually have a chance to see it. The reality is most times I would just be closing my eyes.
Player Media Tour comes through here in Vegas every fall, right before the season. And Ovi has been part of that. And the conversation was, would you go in there for a couple of shots if he was willing to tee it up on you? I'm like, damn right.
Oh,
to see it.
Darren, invite us down. Like, I think
Just
we
to
should have
see
the all three InGoal guys get to face a one-timer from OV session at the NHL media tour. I
might put on that rugby scrum cap though, just that little extra layer, or the Guardian cap from football.
Yeah, the concussion lid.
Yeah, 2 chesties, inner glove padded.
No.
We'd definitely be breaking out the pro palms that day. Not that I have a chance.
I'd be looking like a sumo wrestler, and I'm not a big man.
Okay, what did you guys just run down? You got the Guardian cap, 2 chesties, a pro palm
glove.
What else?
With an inner glove, like that lizard skin or something.
Okay, there's 4 different add-ons for protection.
I'm definitely
triple cup, no question.
I mean,
I might even get one of those giant boxers cups and put that over top of everything.
I'm definitely wearing the bulletproof cup underneath my goalie cup. That's for sure. And then I'm definitely got the CCM Pro knee pads on just in case I get caught moving across in a narrow butterfly and expose some knee. I'm going to need some extra beef there. That's what I wear anyways, but I might go Eddie Lack on that, right? Eddie Lack with the double
2 sets
of knee pads back when he played. I might have to double up my knee pads for that day.
Listeners, just take a step back. This is not meant to be mean, okay? Hutch and Woody, you're morons.
No, we're just soft.
No.
True.
No, you're morons. You just mentioned 7 different pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And didn't
Dangler.
Thank you. Like, protect your neck, and you guys
yes
triple cupping and double knee pads, everything. Not one mention of a dangler. You're morons.
I'm so used to being called a moron,
dangler,
I didn't know where you were going.
Dangler, giant neck guard as well. Absolutely, Darren. No worries, buddy.
That's okay. I'd have so much extra padding underneath my chest protector that it would come up to my ears like a turtle, and there's no chance of getting hit in the neck.
Let's slide over to Stop It Goaltending, the app Stop It Goaltending. You bringing us our parent segment.
Well, and this is just complete coincidence. This was not
100%.
planned. Because Hutch told me as we started to record this, told Darren and I what the parent segment was on this week. And I had already looked up the weekly updates for the Stop It Goaltending U app. And guess what? They're similar. The daily
Great
1
minds
minute
think alike.
Great minds think alike. Simple, seldom differ. We'll go with great minds this time. Learn to juggle. The quick hits. Every week at Stop It Goaltending U, the app, you get 5 Monday to Friday quick videos. Simple. Doesn't take too much time, things that will make you better as a goaltender. And this week's are 5 quick lessons that will help you learn how to juggle. It can be a great thing to do in the off season. And I know Hutch is going to talk about that as well in the parent segment. As usual, that is just one part of several different elements you get fresh each week, combining the 25 years of goalie coaching experience of Stop It Goaltending, the school led by Brian DeCord, son Joey DeCord with the Seattle Kraken. Brian, of course, has coached, played professionally, coached in the National Hockey League as a goalie coach, goalie director, goalie scout, done it all. And he wraps that all into a weekly app for you to help you get better as a goaltender. Stop It Goaltending U, the app, gives you the 5 quick hits, gives you 1 quick video, and now a drill of the week. Adam Mercer voicing over a drill that you can take on the ice this summer with your goalie coach. This week's is a 3-shot with breakaway overspeed drill that Adam walks through. Great way to sort of look for different tools if you're a goaltender or if you're a goalie parent or a goalie coach. When you get on the ice this summer, different ways for you to get better. It's all part of the weekly drop at the Stop It Goaltending U app. And of course, best of both worlds. When you get a subscription to Stop It Goaltending U, the app, you also get a subscription to InGoal Magazine Premium, our premium product behind the paywall. I don't know why all of you aren't already subscribers if you're listening to this, but this is the way to get it rolled in. Best of both worlds. Stop It Goaltending U, the app, and InGoal Premium, all in one stop.
I like that breakaway drill. That sounded cool.
Yeah, and Adam does a great job. They've added a voiceover this week just to sort of make it more of an explanation as you walk through the drill and the drill simulation rolls. So just make it that much simpler, that much easier for people to connect with the key points of it.
Hutch.
Darren.
Hutch.
Darren.
This is the
The
longest
parent
Woody's-
segment.
Woody stayed out of this. This is good.
It's fun that this week's parent segment was all planned out, and it turns out that it's over on Stop at You, the app. We'll see whether we had some similar things to talk about. Of course, Stop at You is there for all goaltenders. I tend to address the parents, but I do think this is a good one, maybe for everybody as well. Quick little segment today. As I said, mostly for the parents of the young goalies, but maybe a few beer leaguers could use some of this as well. Us goalies are famous for our pregame routines. And by the way, how about your pre-practice routines too? Maybe we'll talk about that another day down the road. I hope you have one. A big part of this, of course, is ball drills for so many goaltenders. Some of us is just bouncing a ball off the wall and catching it with or without our glove. It could be wall juggling. It could be good old-fashioned 3-ball juggling. But in this age of screens, and I mean the electronic kind, endless digital entertainment and so on, these kinds of hand-eye drills, I think they risk getting lost, especially with the youngest kids. So I thought I would mention 5 quick tips for parents who are looking to encourage their kids or even join in on the fun. And that is the number 1 tip is make time to do it together, especially if you have younger children. One of my best childhood memories, guys, and Woody will tell you, I don't have much of a memory, so this is a powerful one. If it's stuck with me since age 6, is juggling oranges in the kitchen with my mother. Partner juggling. They'd fall on the floor. She laughed. We both had a great time, and I developed my hand-eye skills from about age 6 with my mother. Number 2, it's easier to learn than you think. Many of you know we have a video over at InGoalMag.com. We will link it up again this week, featuring Braden Holtby's former coach and sports psychologist, John Stevenson, walking people through how to juggle the basics step by step. You too can learn very quickly using John's method. I encourage people to check it out and try it if you are not a juggler yet. 3, you are never too young. Or boys, you're never too old. If the balls are too tough to start with, I encourage parents to grab some scarves or some bits of light material. The key is that it's very light because it floats longer in the air, and you can work through those patterns that John is teaching with a lot more time to catch those scarves as they're moving around. And even at a very young age, the ages that we all start to learn how to skate, you can learn how to juggle working with light scarves. Number 4, keep it challenging. When I was in teachers' college, one of our professors said to us, what level do kids want to play their favorite video game on? The answer was 1 higher than the level they're doing right now. Everybody wants to be challenged. Same thing goes here. So find some ways to add some different progressions into that juggling, whether it's working off a wall with a partner, 2 balls in one hand. You can find a million progressions on YouTube. Challenge your kids to try those different ones and encourage them when it's going well. And then the 5th one is add a physical twist into this. Try juggling while you're standing on one leg. Try it while you're on a balance board, doing a squat, kneeling on an exercise ball. Get creative, but it's all about coordination and control. Juggling isn't going to instantly make you an elite goalie. That repetitive pattern thing isn't necessarily conducive to being a great goaltender, but it will build your kids' focus. It will build their control and their confidence. And you know what? It's kind of a way to feel like you're connected to that wider goalie community. It's something most people learn doing at some point. If you're doing something fun or creative with your young goaltender, as always, we would love to hear about it. Please email us and let us know. Send me a video. parents@ingoalmag.com showing me what your kid's doing with their juggling, or post it on social and tag InGoal there. We'd love to hear from you. That's it for me, boys. Off to try some juggling.
I
Well done,
love
Hutch.
the idea of parents doing it. And it reminds me of the video that you're going to link to with John Stevenson when we initially put it out. It wasn't just kids that learned. Remember Corey Cooper, who, of course, some of you will know is a former longtime goaltending coach in the American Hockey League with Belleville, in the OHL with Kingston, and is now currently actually with a bunch of different teams in the OHL, but is now actually the general manager of the Kingston Frontenacs in the OHL. I'll never forget him showing us the video that he had learned how to juggle. After all those years as a goaltending coach, it was that video that he had used to learn how to juggle. So parents, it is possible. Maybe I'll have to try juggling to prove it, because if anybody would not be able to juggle. It is ultra uncoordinated me, but you don't have to be this 16-year-old goaltender to figure it out. Hutch to give you great ways to sort of get involved and stay involved with your kid doing this. And we have proof from other older goalies like ourselves that you can do it.
How long can you go?
Who are we talking to?
Pretty long time.
Yeah.
You mean just keep three balls up in the air, you mean?
Yeah, I'm not. I like
Minutes.
it. I've really worked at it at times, and I can't really get. I can't.
I
make
mean,
a lot
you
of
can
progress.
do it. If you get to the point where you can do it a long time, it's probably not doing you a whole lot of good, and it's time to try something else.
Oh,
Add a ball.
Yep.
There you go. I do stuff off the wall. I throw tape off the wall, 2 things of tape, and try that because
it's more reaction ball, like probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the juggling, I lack those skills.
Can you watch that video this week, Darren, and try for 5 minutes for us?
Absolutely.
Right on.
We tee this off the top. The gear segment brought to you by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Langley, featuring a product that I've never seen before. We know the equipment line, true, and we know the equipment, it's pants, but we've never seen those two together.
It's true.
It's true.
They make pants. And there are some very unique aspects to these pants. And there are also some things from other manufacturers, features, that they have done a really nice job of combining. Some of the best of other worlds brought together by True in this new pant line. Enough with the teases. Let's get to it with Cam at the Hockey Shop.
It's true. They make pants. And wait till you find out the other company that's involved in making them. And maybe a little secret about how they were inspired at the end of the video. Let's see.
Well, let's kick this catalyst into high gear with a truly good segment about True Pants. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here and live in Goalie Utopia. Isn't that your line? It's my line now. Look at that.
I'm so shocked by the bad dad jokes. I mean, I kick it off with True making pants, and you're wasting our time with the dad jokes. Tell us what's new.
I know. I'm just so excited. 9X.
9X5 pants, first ever pant model from True.
Yes.
We've also got a 7X5 lower price point, but let's start with the high end. Cam, I want to look at the internals. Removable inner belt.
Yeah, there's a lot of
there's a ton here.
There's a lot of almost mashing together of some pants that we've covered in the past, and definitely worth kind of calling out. So let's start because I'm holding it here. We'll go thigh, top, and then we'll get on to the inside. So starting off with the thigh barrels, 9-inch NHL legal thighs to the pants. So great call out point on that. There are, obviously wider ones on the shelf. However, that can aid a little bit in your mobility and might actually make it a little bit easier to bring your legs together because you don't have as much bulk to be able to seal off that thigh hole. Removable inner thigh pads as well. Come in and out.
If you happen to have bigger knee pads inside your pants, you need a little more room inside the barrel of a smallish 9-inch barrel of a pant. That allows you
potentially
to
offering a little bit more mobility as well. I find once these are out, they tend to sit in a butterfly a little bit better, get hung up on less things as well. So great call out that way. Moving up the pant itself, double segmented hip protection. Very Von-esque. Von-esque.
Is that a word?
I don't know. I just made it up.
It looks like the SLR3.
It does. But this is an extremely popular thing at the NHL level, being brought heavily inspired clearly onto the True Pant as well. But it offers great flexibility. It's one thing that you called out immediately when you picked up this pant. It's how movable and flexible the pant is right off of the shelf. Normally, a lot, you have to kind of break in a pant, sweat into it a little bit more, kind of get that feel for it. But I think right off the bat, you just have that level of flexibility. I think it's getting close to the, unmatched territory.
And yet still a lot of protection as well.
Yeah, we're not sacrificing
with
anything.
The double flaps, with the thickness,
let's
with
be
the
clear, this is a beefy pant. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So moving on now into the hip portion of the pant and onto the inside. Nice flared out, a bit more of a barrel style cut. So now we can see again the mishmashing of a couple pants. Very CCM.
CCM-ish at the top?
Yes. Yeah, we'll call it that. So tuck, untuck, able to potentially do both depending on your personal preference. I would say a little bit more rigid at the waist, so it might benefit that tucking guy a little bit more in that sense.
It's not too rigid at the waist.
No, it's just a bit, but actual stiff waist plates themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of fur, we'll call it upper hip padding.
Okay.
Yes.
Inner belt.
We have a removable internal belt.
Because obviously you can't have an internal belt in the NHL.
No, so you can slide
But
this
for
one out.
those of us not in the NHL, we like
Yes.
our belts.
Yes, and there's quite a few of us that are not. So
Yes, there are.
yes.
And as we turn it inside out, we see the company we were talking about.
Oh, we have it.
Tekla and True have combined on the Catalyst pants, 9x5, 7x5. Have we got any other features we need to go over? What about this thing, IBP on the back?
What was our acronym there? We were calling it again. Even have to double check. Oh,
I got to read it on the front.
We got to read it on the front.
We're both intelligent body protection.
Unlike us,
It is intelligent.
Yeah, your spine protection is more intelligent than both of us.
True has built a spine protector that is actually smarter than Cam. Again, relatively low bar.
Yes.
Now, this protection, this customized foam, seems like a really good idea. It does appear to, however, just be on the frame and on the spine.
Correct.
So I guess if you're getting hit from behind as a goalie, maybe
You're intelligently protected.
You're intelligently protected.
Okay.
What else? 7x5, what's the difference?
Yes. So moving
Show us the
down
price point.
into now the lower price point. Senior.
Only single flaps.
Yeah, only single flaps. Senior, intermediate, and junior available for this pant.
Okay.
We still, again, get the 9-inch wide barrel. Removable. Inner thigh pad as well.
We didn't mention it on the Pro, but it's available on both. You do have the option to tie in your knee pads. It's got a tab in there for tying and integrating your knee pads directly to the pant.
Almost missed that, but yes, you do have that option. So something that's become available now on 3 brands now.
Okay.
Again, single hip flaps in the front. We need to separate those price points somehow in terms of for overall
It
protection.
looks a little softer, a little less. Again, you're just going to get lesser materials, a little less protection.
Not as high quality nylon as you go out throughout the pant. Overall, inside of the pant, though, we still see that removable belt
Still got the IBP.
on your spine. Intelligent protection. Again, it feels a little bit lighter weight, but that will be, I think, the separation of the materials and also the thickness of the padding between the two. However, that said, still quite a beefy pant for a mid-level pant. So I would still say comparable to everything else that is on the market at that mid-range level in terms of for protection value-wise.
And again, one of the big differences is only the single layer flap. We'll take you back to the double layer flap, which we talked about on that Vaughn pant. And we revealed at the time that there was a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender that switched based off our video about the double flap and the extra protection you get around the hips. A little birdie told me that video may have also helped inspire this being an addition to these pants. Don't know if it's true, but it makes for a good story. The kind of things you get here only on the gear segment at the Hockey Shop Source for Sport. Cam, if they got any questions about the new True pants, how they integrate, this feels like something you could tuck or untuck, especially with the inner belts, goes both ways.
Yes.
Questions? Yeah.
589-8299
Or
1-800-567-7790 or check them out at thehockeyshop.com.
True, Tekla, pants, available now.
So what was your reaction when you first saw these pants?
I want to get on the ice.
Oh, just go right there, eh?
It's honest because True doesn't send us gear to review here. We haven't got that working relationship with them that we have with so many other companies. And yet I was excited by this product and I wanted to get them on the ice. That's just the short way of saying it.
Well, I think my first reaction was actually probably more like, what? True makes pants? And then once we got into it a little bit, I too was excited. They've done a nice job with this product. Again, let's see how it performs. We haven't had that chance. Let's see what the durability is like. But everything about it, holding it, the mobility, the protection, again, the combination, of things we've seen in other brands, the double flaps over the thighs that make the Vaughn pants so popular. They included those. The inner belt system reminds me of CCM's product. They've got that dialed in. Again, haven't worn on the ice, but it looks really nice the way they put this together. It looks well thought out. And hey, flattery, imitation being the sincerest form of flattery, like borrowing elements that other goalies like right up to the National Hockey League from other products and combining them in yours is never a bad idea. If you're going to come out of the gates, you might as well come out of the gates with the best features. And True has added a lot of features that we know are very popular right up to the National Hockey League in this pair of pants.
So it's poked the market a little bit, this area. It's got people's attention.
I think it will get people's
I think it
attention,
will.
but the fact nobody knew it was coming and I haven't heard much about it. I mean, it poked the market maybe, but there's not much marketing behind it that I've seen yet. And maybe we're just a little bit ahead of the curve here and maybe it's all coming. But I think this is a product that people will be excited by. And if you're excited hearing us talk about it, I think you should really go over to our YouTube page and see us talk about it as well. This is one where I think no one having seen this product before, this is a can't miss over on our YouTube channel. So a reminder, each one of these on the InGoal Radio podcast is sort of quote unquote simulcast. We have a video version that you can watch over on YouTube on the InGoal Media channel.
And leave a comment there and let us know what you think of these pants or any of the other videos you're watching. We do see all of those comments. We don't always have time to jump in there and answer all of them. And some of them are more directed towards Cam, I think. So Woody and I don't hop in on all of them, but we'd love to hear from you. Do share us what you're thinking. Is there something you'd like to try? Darren, we've made the comment before, a blocker's a blocker. And I think a lot of people think that about pants as well. It's just a pair of pants, but is there something I think they're integral to your comfort out on the ice. I think they actually matter a lot more than people realize.
I do think the difference from one line to another can sometimes be how they break in too. And that's, again, hard to tell. We haven't worn these on the ice. We haven't had that opportunity, but it feels the way the segments come together like it's going to be a very mobile pant out of the box. Like sometimes you put it on even in the hockey shop and you're like, this is going to take some break in. Nice. It was one of the things that impressed me the most about the current CCM Pro pant that I'm wearing was there was zero break in. I have the feeling that it's going to be similar with this product.
Sense Arena feature interview this week. We have a lot going on over at Sense Arena before we tee up our conversation.
Oh, yeah. Big time at Sense Arena. You've heard me say before, one of the things I love about Sense Arena, Darren, is how they're constantly updating it. And just announced Sense Arena's new goalie advancement program. It is a fully guided training experience for goaltenders of all ages, all skill levels. Even Kevin Woodley can do this. It is designed to help you improve in 3 key areas. Number 1, angles. Number 2, traffic, huge part of the game today. And number 3, you've heard us talk many times about the benefits of Sense Arena for this, reading the release. And it's got a number of courses, 3 courses, 3 different difficulty levels, so you can tailor it to your age and to the shot speed that's appropriate for you. There's 3 training days for each level, and each of those training days has between 6 and 8 different drills that you can execute in each session. 8 different skill levels that take you from beginner all the way up to elite. So they've got a huge progression in there. And every one of them is guided at the beginning with an expert insight from Brian DeCord, who's also our friend from Stop It Goaltending. In addition to all those great training programs they already have built into Sense Arena, where you can work with all sorts of different goaltending coaches, this new goalie advancement program will help guide you this summer in your training. It is expensive to get on the ice as a goaltender in the summer. Sense Arena is an incredible opportunity because you can get out there as many times as you want. And now they've got this great goalie advancement program to guide you in your training. So this summer, let Sense Arena guide you in your off-ice development with this structured, expert-led training. Just visit sensearena.com and use the code IGM50 at checkout to get started today.
Who are you talking with this week, Woody?
Colin Zulianello. And I would like to say this one is dedicated to David Hutchison because Colin has a teaching background and he very much brings that into his coaching. For those who might not be familiar with Colin Zulianello, we first came across him while he was with the Calgary Flames organization. As he explains at the start of this interview, he walked away from goalie coaching, at least at the professional level, because of a growing family and the need to spend more time with them. Now he's back, has been for a couple of years with the Seattle Kraken and the Coachella Valley Firebirds. We've seen the success that the goalies have had coming out of there. They happen to be in town playing the Abbotsford Canucks as part of the American Hockey League playoffs, and it was a great chance for me to reconnect with him and be reminded of the passion and the dedication and the unique aspects of having been a teacher that Colin brings to the position. This is, for several different reasons, going on my can't miss list of interviews from the coaching side of things. There is so much here. There will be takeaways for goalies, takeaways for goalie parents and takeaways for goalie coaches, whether it's tactical, technical, or maybe overall just mindset and approach to working with goalies of all ages. Because Colin still does camps with former NHLer Carter Hutton back in his native Thunder Bay. And a lot of the drills that I watched him use with his American League guys, and we'll have some coming up at InGoalMag.com as well for premium members, a lot of those drills are the same ones that he uses just at different speeds and different progressions with young kids back home to both build and evaluate where some of their skating and skills are. So tons of different aspects and angles on this one. There are so many different takeaways. I hope you enjoy. Can't tell you how excited I am to welcome for the first time, much overdue, to the InGoal Radio podcast, Colin Zulianello, now with the Coachella Valley Firebirds in the Seattle Kraken system. When we first met at a conference in Nashville, I believe, and we'll leave the after conference parts out of this conversation. He was with the Calgary Flames organization in Stockton, worked with Lakehead University, out of Thunder Bay, good friends with a good friend of the program, Carter Hutton. Colin, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
We're catching you in the playoffs, so we're catching you at a busy time of year. There's so many different things I want to get. You stepped away from the game for a little bit. Maybe just catch people up with, because I think sometimes when people disappear and then they come back, not everybody knows what the circumstances were. But for you, it was family and getting back into Canada and then now back into coaching.
Yeah. So for me, it was obviously a hard and an easy decision, if you can put it that way. So hard from a professional standpoint. Love my job. Calgary Flames are an amazing organization. Met a lot of good people who I'm still friends with today, and learned a lot and grew a lot as a coach and as a person. But in that same time span, we had a 20-month-old boy, Sawyer, and then we had when Sawyer was about 20 months, we had twin boys, Oliver and Finley. So our family of 3 became a family of 5 really quickly. And I just been reflecting with it, with my wife, and just knowing what the job is and what it takes and what it entails, and learning a little bit, all that being a parent entails. And I just didn't think I could do both well if I was coaching. So I mean, obviously it's an easy choice to choose being a parent, a good parent over being a good coach. And so that was, with, a lot of conversations with my wife and family. It's just kind of, we decided that it was the best thing for us as a unit of 5. But it was hard. I mean, I love coaching. I love being at the arena, and, but it was easy in the sense that, I went home, took a year off of basically everything, became daddy daycare. And my wife, who's a physician back home in Thunder Bay, went back to work, and we, we were all in on making our family our priority, and we don't regret a bit of that.
I was going to say family first and foremost, always. It's tough too when you go from playing like man to, zone defense, like the Twins on the second end. I know a lot of friends that have gone through that, and that's a lot, especially with a 20-month-old on top of it. So seems like a pretty good decision getting back into it. I knew, like, you kept coaching a little bit after that first year in Thunder Bay and at Lakehead. Was it always the plan to get back in, or the hope?
Yeah, somewhere like deep down, I think I didn't really feel like I totally stepped away from the game. I was really fortunate to get an opportunity to coach back in my hometown with Lakehead University. Eventually, after that year, got back into teaching, which is my profession back home. So did the teaching thing, was working with Lakehead. And the nice thing about being in Thunder Bay in the summer is there's a bunch of really good goalies that are home in the summer to work with. So that kind of trains or kind of like fuels your want to continue to grow and learn. And, with Mackenzie Blackwood and Matt Murray and Carter Hutton being around, like it's those are 3 unbelievable goaltenders and people to have an opportunity to like work with and continue to learn from. Those sessions are always amazing, where a lot of times I just listen to whoever's on the ice with me talk, whether it's the Carter and, Matt or Carter and Kid, whichever, 2 of them are kind of out there, and man, can you learn a lot from listening to those conversations. And so I didn't ever feel like I was totally out of the game. And I think that was really important, because I feel like had I not had, the opportunity with Lakehead and the summer work, and then my own little kind of goalie academy back home in Thunder Bay, I think that it'd be really easy to just, stick with teaching and, be around family, and, Thunder Bay is an easy place to live. And so But it seemed like there were things in the game that kept pulling me back as a professional. I like get a call from someone and, a potential job, and then have a conversation with, my wife, and then, okay, now is not a good time. And so we did it a few times, and then an opportunity came with the Marlies. Was interviewing for that position, and got to kind of the end of the interview process, and we were like, man, like how do we do this? Like the timing actually wasn't good. I had to, call then head coach Greg Moore and just say like, listen, I don't think I'm ready to do this, or we're not at the right spot to do this. And at that point, I thought that was going to be it. Like, you say no enough times.
You worry about getting asked again.
Yeah. Like, people are just going to be like, this guy's he's not into it, or this does, hey, it's admirable that he's choosing his family over the game, but on to the next, And so we really believed that was sort of going to be it. And that was really hard. I even said to Greg on the phone, I said, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but I don't think I could do this job. But again, making the decision for what we believe was the right reasons. And so that was tough. And then, fast forward a year, and there was some movement, and Steve Briere ended up in Seattle. Steve was involved a little bit in the interview process and knew a little bit about me. And so, that's how it kind of all started with Seattle, and was fortunate enough to get the job offer. That was kind of coming out of COVID, where things were pretty tight back home, and, as far as, what you were and weren't able to do. And I think at that point, our family was just like kind of ready. The boys were a little bit older, and my wife, Lindsay, being in the medical profession during COVID wasn't an easy thing to do. And so it was just, the timing was really good, and really fortunate that, that Seattle gave me an opportunity, and then here we are.
Okay. So the passion you have for the position comes through every time we've talked. I got to ask, like, I want to get into the teaching aspect and the difference between teaching and coaching, and how you've tied the two together and the importance of that. But I want to know where the passion, like, because I don't know your background from a goal. I know you're coaching and teaching, but not like, where did the goaltending come from? Because you clearly love it. Every time we talk, I learn a ton of new stuff, but also the energy comes through.
Yeah. It started real early. My dad played some minor professional hockey in Belgium when I was a little kid. I was 2. My brother was 4. Sister wasn't around yet. But so we got to live, abroad, which is really cool. My dad was a forward, a goal scorer. So like the total opposite of what I became and wanted to become. And so, but I don't remember, I was 2, but he tells the story of them putting me in like the goal judge's chair, like right behind the net for practice, and me just watching the goalie. This is 2.5 years old. Go in the locker room, crawl around, play with the goalie gear. Like, this is what I wanted to do. But he didn't want me to be goalie. So for the longest time, I would do both. So I was doing, goalie on the travel team and forward on the rec league team. And that was sort of the, my dad kind of was like, yeah, you can play goalie, but you're also going to play forward. And so it was interesting, but I never wavered from my love for the position, and I enjoy the pressure of it. I think it's cool that I thought it was cool that you could, control the impact of a game for better or worse. And so, yeah, so it sort of started real young, but I appreciate that my dad made me play out. And I think that what was cool about that was learning what's available on goaltenders, where to shoot, seeing that total opposite perspective. And it also helps with your skating and your puck handling. Like, I don't think I'm an elite skater or was an elite puck handler, but I was decent at both. And I think a big part of it was because of that upbringing of like, I mean, I was just playing in a rec league till I was 13 as a forward. Like, it wasn't like ended at an early age.
We hear from a lot of guys that have similar backgrounds. I mean, and the one I point to the most, because it's just the way he talks about it, was Braden Holtby, his dad, who also played, not allowing him to, making him play other positions, and how it let him read the game. I do get pushback on that. Like, can you even do it nowadays? You work with kids. Do you think it's still a really good idea to try and, like, as hard as it might be to manage in a minor hockey situation, is there a benefit to doing more than just being a goalie as long as you can?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important because I think skating is such a pivotal piece of the position. And I think that now more than ever, puck play is a separator in the position. And I think that, playing out, obviously what makes it hard is that so many kids specialize at such a young age now. That's a little bit of the keeping up with the Joneses. If you're not doing this, then other people are going to leapfrog you. But like, there's a bunch of, people out there that hadn't fully committed to goaltender till later. Like Mackenzie Blackwood was 13, I think, right? So there's examples of the importance of doing that. And if you ask Joey Decord, like, I mean, that guy goes out after practice and works on one-timers. Like he handles the puck, better than a lot of players that we've seen. And so I think there's a huge amount of value from a mobility perspective and from a puck handling perspective and reading the game perspective. The challenge becomes, the specialization. Kids are almost forced into it too early just based on the way the system is. My little guy Sawyer just turned 8 and he's been asking for 2 years to be a full-time goalie, and we haven't allowed it. He's played more this year in that than any other year. And now I'm at that point where he and Carter's some are both attending our goalie camp this year back home in Thunder Bay. And it's a hard thing because I feel like it's way too early. And so he's going to continue to play out, and we've kind of have this deal with him where he understands that. And then one of the twins went in, and he's a good little player, and he went in and he wanted to play goalie. So he went in, the kind of quick change, throw the gear on. Love that stuff, by the way. It's unbelievable. That idea is one of the best I've ever seen. And as far as, youth hockey is concerned, because now you're given the opportunity and all the other great reasons. So he goes in and he plays really well. And I'm like, no. So he says, hey, can I go out on Daddy? Can we go, so we got we had a day off. So we got to use the big sheet in Palm Springs there at the rink. And so Sawyer's in his goalie gear, Finley's in his goalie gear, and Oliver and our other kidders were skating out, and I tried desperately hard to score. I mean, as hard as you can really try on a 6-year-old to score as often as possible because I actually wanted to score. He's just too young. So I felt a little bit bad doing it, but after the skate, I was like, hey, buddy, did you have fun? And he says, yeah, it was good, but I don't think I want to be a goalie, Dad. And I said, okay, so that's a good thing for now. So yeah, so I think it's, For me, I think I put a huge premium on your ability to skate, your ability to handle a puck, and also just the way that, practices are constructed and stuff as far as like just purely like a workout sense, or it takes a lot in a minor hockey practice at the really, really early age groups to give the goaltenders enough sort of like part of why we're doing this is for exercise and for, you know what I mean? It's a big part of it. And I think that it's, real important to not just put a kid in net at 5 or 6 years old and, let him sit there and not learn any other components of the game.
Or in some cases, I hate to say this, put him in net at 5, 6 years old and have a backup. And then when it's game day, leave him on the bench for the entire game.
Yeah. I mean, 5 or 6 might be extreme, obviously, but you see it at like the, U8 levels. And I think it's real important to get the kid that's just too young to me to specialize and be a full-time goalie. And, Carter and I run a goalie academy back home in Thunder Bay, and we tell parents that they shouldn't specialize their kids that young, and that, it's real important for them to play other positions because you don't really know, I don't think, at that age.
Walk me through, because I'm familiar with the coaching side, but your career, where it went for you and the transition to coaching and when you knew this was something that was maybe for you.
Yeah. So played in the USHL way back in the day. Thunder Bay we were the only Canadian team. So, fortunate enough to stay home and play junior hockey, which was amazing. And had been drafted in the OHL, but coming from a little bit of an academic background with my family, they weren't forceful with taking the NCAA route, but they, I think, recommend it, so we were drafted by Owen Sound, but played in the USHL, was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to Colorado College. So I spent 4 years there. Played, with some great players and for some great coaches, and learned a lot. And then was really lucky. Didn't have an NHL contract directly coming out of, NCAA. Had a good senior year, but didn't have anything. Ended up getting invited to a rookie camp with the then Phoenix Coyotes, and played well at the right time. Played better than I was, actually, is what happens. Nice when that kind of comes together. But
good time for it too.
Yeah, good time. And Ben Waller was the goalie coach at the time. And Benny just saw something in me that he liked, and it sort of worked out. So I was able to sign a contract with them, which was awesome. I was the 4th in their depth chart, but we had a split affiliate in Springfield with Tampa Bay. So I was in the coast, spent quite a few, months in the American League that year, but didn't play a bunch of games. The way that those split affiliates kind of worked then was the other guy, if he was higher than you on their depth chart, kind of got the net. And in fairness, I think Dieter Cocken was there my first year, and he's a way better goalie than me. So I would have played him too. So it's all good. So spent 2 years in their system, and then toiled around the ECHL for a few more. Had a groin injury that second year of my contract. Never really. I mean, everyone has a story of why. I don't think that was why. I don't think that I was ever destined to be there. But it certainly cut my minor league career like a little bit short. Got to the point where I'm 27 years old, and I'm that guy now that's I'm in the minors, and like things aren't looking up anymore. Like now I can't play back-to-back games. There's so much maintenance and like work to get ready just to practice, let alone play. And
it becomes a job.
Yeah, like it'd be exactly. Yeah. And it just took the fun out of it. I enjoyed the guys. I enjoyed the room. I enjoyed travel. I enjoyed the situations, the interaction with the fans. Like I loved all that, but the actual playing of the game, which is supposed to be the fun part, was so much work to get, my body ready to do it. There's also a bit of that hit to your ego when you're kind of like, you thought something might come out of the career, and now like you're getting scored on ways that you believe you shouldn't be getting scored on. So it was sort of time. So kind of, hung them up, but always like at an early age, I was working at goalie camps like Rick Hines School of Goaltending, and then eventually started my own when I was real young. I was only like 20, I think at the time. And just a little thing in Thunder Bay, and knew right away that I had a passion for coaching. And so eventually, went back to school, did my teaching degree, and then did a master's in education, and was coaching simultaneously while doing that. So the two of those kind of married up, pretty quickly and easily.
Okay, so there's a couple of threads I want to pull in there. One though is Thunder Bay. I've hinted at it already, but like you talked about having a school there, and Mackenzie Blackwood, and obviously Matt Murray and Carter Hutton. Like what Alex Auld.
Yeah.
Like what's the deal with Thunder Bay and goal? Because it's not the biggest.
No.
But I mean, it just keeps churning out goaltenders.
Yeah. There's been a whack of goalies from Thunder Bay that have gone on and done good things, and there's a few more coming. You got Carter George, who's Thunder Bay.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, who's in LA system and got a taste of the American Hockey League, and showed pretty quick that he's more than ready.
And is that a guy you've worked with in the past?
Yeah. He was younger, so his family after he got drafted by Owen Sound, his family relocated to Southern Ontario. Dad was a goalie. Sister was a goalie. Michaela they both came to our goalie camps, and she was a really good goalie. And mom was a very good curler. They're just a super athletic family, but another one, Ryan Fanti, is another one from Thunder Bay, and played some games in Syracuse this year and demonstrated again that he's a capable American Hockey League goalie, and he's playing the playoffs right now for Orlando. They're in the second round against Florida in the ECHL, there's a bunch. Nate Krawchuk's a kid that played in Sudbury in the OHL and is now attending RPI next year.
Must be all the good coaching.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I honestly,
come in the water. There's helping.
Yeah, I'm leaving some Reese Keating. She's also at RPI, NCAA Division I, female goalie. Like there's a whole bunch, and in Thunder Bay, Christian Cicigo is a kid that's the starting goalie for Lakehead University, the local team there. He's an OHL pick, played in the OHL. It's actually crazy when Carter and I get on the ice and we do what we call our elite camp, which is just a bunch of local goalies that are really, really good. We don't bring them from anywhere else because we have more than enough to work with just in our hometown. We're real lucky and fortunate. And the reasons why, like I've been asked this question, a few times, and I think it's a lot about Thunder Bay, the place itself. Like, I think when you ask coaches about not just goalies, but just about players from Thunder Bay, they kind of all say the same thing. They're like, yeah, blue collar, hardworking, like, no ego, just come in, do their work. And like, you think like the Stahl brothers, you think like, Patrick Sharp, Trevor Letowski, like all these, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I've covered those guys. Work ethic is definitely not lacking in any of them.
Sure, like the Johnson brothers, like there's all these Alex, all these individuals that have come from our home city and have done some amazing things in hockey. But if you met them, you just think they're like some person that's like working at the gas station or something. They're very like humble, and I think that's just, it's sort of the nature of the city itself, like the type of person that's from there. And then I think the other side of it is, like obviously these kids they're all special in their own way, but they've all also had like very good coaching. And I'm not talking about Carter or myself. I'm talking about the volunteers that are like at their young ages, that are the dads that are volunteering their time. Like when you go to youth practice back home, it's amazing. Like you walk in the rink and you're like, that guy played in the American Hockey League. He's coaching 7-year-olds, and this guy played in the NHL, and he's working with these 13-year-olds. And so I think there's a whole bunch of people in the community that are kind of giving back, and maybe it's because their kids are on the team. It doesn't matter how they're there, but why they're there is to kind of give back. So I think the combination of, of those factors, and then obviously like now there is something for those guys to return home to in the summer and to get quality training in and to do the things that they believe that they need to do to get themselves ready for the next season.
I love it. The teaching side and sort of coaching and teaching. I think sometimes we hold them in different hands as two different things. There are differences, but the importance of being able to teach the lessons you learned formally going through, an education, master's degree in teaching, and how you apply it and the importance of it and how it manifests itself, I guess. I'm asking the question poorly. I need to go back to school.
No, that's well said. I think there's certainly a synergy between the two. I think that essentially coaching is teaching and teaching is sort of coaching. And I think that, there's lessons that you learn that I learned in education that were extremely valuable. You learn sometimes how not to do things, which is important too, just like you do in coaching. One of the things that stood out the most in teachers college is we had a professor there that would always say, they don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that was a teaching phrase. And I remember writing it in my notes. And I remember being like, this is such a valuable thing in life. But what it lended itself to was building a relationship first is so important. It doesn't matter if it's your class of 30 kids or if it's your steeple of 2 or 3 goalies that you're working with. And I found in education, to speak to that first, that the quicker you bonded with your students, the quicker you could get work done. And I mean, I don't only mean academic work. I mean, these are kids that you're hoping become better people. By the end of the school year, I taught homeroom in a 7-8 school, phys ed, science, some math, language arts, religion. So a gamut of subjects. And it didn't matter what I was teaching. It was, I strived really hard in the first few weeks of school to build a relationship with the students. I also coached a bunch of the teams at school, which enables them to see you in a different light and you to see them in a different light. And so I think for me, one of the biggest joys of teaching and being in education is when you see a student years later and they come up and say something complimentary to you, or they remember like a lesson or a story that you told that resonated with them. And I think it's so important. Ryan Fanti was in one of my grade 8 homerooms when I was like 13 years old. And so now, 2 years ago, I'm coaching against, he was playing for Bakersfield and I'm in Coachella. And it's just a crazy thing to see that come kind of full circle and your worlds collide. But I think it's the same thing in coaching. Like I love the fact that I can, pick up the phone and have a conversation with a former, player that I coach or goalie that I coach, and it could be 10 years later, or we're 2 years ago when David Riddick is playing in Ontario and we're playing in the next night. He texted me a few days before and said, can we go to dinner when I get into town? And I said, yes. So we went out and had a great dinner, and then he shut us out 1-0. And the next time he came, I refused to go to dinner with him. So, but anyways, it's like, so those are the things. And I think that like education, you can obviously talk about, the way you plan a lesson and the way you plan like a practice plan and all, like the sort of the connections that you can draw from a planning perspective and from, but a lot of it to me, what I've learned transfers between the both is communication and relationship building.
It's interesting because I guess part of that is if you believe that teaching is coaching, like that it has to be more than just because I said so.
Yeah.
Right. Like, no, don't just do it. Like, being able to explain things, is that, especially with the new athletes, the new generation of athletes, being able to explain the why.
Yeah.
Have you seen that become, I think your teaching background means you probably always knew it was important, but have you seen it become even more important with this next generation?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's ultra important for anything you're doing, like in teaching, when you're teaching any subject matter, I always would say in the intro to the lesson, like, this is important to know because, or why do you think this is important to know? And I typically in coaching and teaching, this sounds crazy, but I often would ask more questions than give answers. Do I have the answer? Yeah, usually, maybe not maybe not as good as it could be done after some thinking, but I think it's important for, the demonstration of knowing material as best as you could possibly know it is being able to teach it. So when I do my video sessions with our goalies, if you were to look at their clips, what do we think of our positioning here? Or do we like the way we went back to our post? Or what did you see in this situation? Happy with where you ended up, or whatever it might be, good or bad. And then they talk me through what they're seeing, because I'm not actually seeing it with their eyes. I'm seeing it with my eyes. I'm in a press box, and after the game, I get to pause it, rewind it, watch it in slow motion. But these guys they're doing this in real time. And so I think that, and teaching's the same way. Like oftentimes, I would have the students teach each other. And I think that what happens when you do that is you give them accountability, you give them a voice, and you show them that what they know or what they've worked hard to improve on or whatever matters. And so the same thing with coaching.
I love that. So do your guys, do you encourage your goalies to, partnerships are different at every level and with different guys, but do you encourage them to sort of work together and feed off each other and learn from each other?
Yeah. And a lot of times these things happen organically, where we're doing a drill and something happens, and then we're pausing after the drill, and all of a sudden now there's a conversation happens. And a lot of times I hear it start, and I'll skate and I'll set the pucks up for the next drill. And I'm listening to what they're kind of saying, and I'm hearing. And if you look at the 3 goalies that we have with us right now, we got Alex Steska, 6'5", moves well, athletic, competes. Then we got Victor Osman, who's this, 6'4", he's structured. Not that Stezzy's not structured, but Vic has it looks a certain way. Everything is calculated. And then you have Coco, who's kind of a blend of both of those guys. He's athletic, and so they all play a little bit differently, and they all do things differently. So when you listen to them have a conversation about something, there's value in that. I was referencing, the summertime, having some NHL guys on the ice and, putting them in scenarios and listening to them talk about it. There was one time I had the iPad was just running, and I actually didn't know it was running. I forgot to hit pause. So now this is the in-between, and it was Carter and Matt on the ice, and it was a post-play situation. They were discussing things. It's the best 14 minutes of video maybe I ever recorded by accident, but it's the best. And they play totally differently, so Matt's explaining his deal and Carter's explaining his why, and the two they couldn't play more different, and it was a really cool, moment to see how important it is for us to learn from one another. It also happens without it being talked about, because they're watching each other all the time. They're watching each other in games, they're watching each other in practice. And Stez, who's an older guy, he's had conversations with me about watching the other goalie. Did you see this? Yeah. What'd you think of that? Yeah, that's interesting. Wonder why he did that. Or he's kind of playing like this. Oh yeah, he is playing like that. And then I'm thinking, okay, I should probably put that in the pre-scout, because that's a good point. So these guys are very, very knowledgeable. They'd be crazy not to learn from one another.
Yeah, I love that. International too. You've had quite goalies. You mentioned, you talked about David Riddick and Stez, and you've got Czech Republic, Finland, Sweden right now. You've had Joey Decord from the States. You've had Canadian goalies. You talk about relationship building. When it's international, is goalie a universal language? Do you have to make sure that you use phrasing that they all understand, build a dictionary with each one? How do you go about building the relationships when there might be a, language barrier at some times? Not for the Swedes, but, for some.
Yeah, for sure. We use I use the same terminology of things all season long, and I explain what it means. Even when I will go out there and demo and try to show them what I mean, yeah. And kind of explain what I mean. And then I think that kind of gets established early on. So then when we go through the video, they know what I'm talking about. And then when we're on the ice, they know what that means. So there's no huge gap. But what's interesting that you say is about how the goalies that are from different regions of the world have certain attributes that are sort of indicative of that region, right? Like Vic and his use of his size, Coco and his mobility, Coco and his ability to catch pucks, very finish, really good hands, and then Stez is a Czech goalie where, man, can they battle and compete like no other, the best one ever. Hasek laid this blueprint, and I feel like every one of those kids has it in them where they can deviate from their structure and do something incredible, without a blink. And I think that what's cool about that is that they bring these really cool sort of geographical traits with them too. And that's not to say that they don't do other great things too,
Right.
but those things kind of stand out.
I wanted to get into a little bit of some of the practice stuff that we saw today, and working through warm-ups and different aspects. You had different variations. You talked to me earlier, and I just wanted to sort of the idea that it's not always, it doesn't have to be the same every time, but there are principles and foundations that you work through a lot of your drills and concepts that are consistent throughout. Just for young goalie coaches that are maybe looking to build their repertoire up, what are some of the sort of not non-negotiable, but just the way you approach some of those things?
Yeah, for sure. I think in pro hockey, you have a huge luxury where typically the ice is available to you
That helps it.
before a practice starts. And so like we're real fortunate, in Palm Springs and Coachella Valley with our team. And the same is true of, I would say all AHL teams and NHL teams, but you typically have like 30 minutes or so before practice for you to choose how you use it. Obviously, if it's a busy week or we have lots of games, I'm not going to use the whole 30 minutes every day. And so load management's important. And I deal with our strength coach, Brandon Wickett, a lot on managing. We have Catapult, we manage their reps, we manage their energy. But I think there's components that like should exist in a warm up. Obviously, the movement piece is important. What I've done over the years and tried to do is I basically have a few different sort of warm-ups, movement skates that I like to use, show them to the guys very early in the season. We'll add pieces, take pieces out and whatever. But when they get on the ice, they have freedom to choose. I do believe in choice, and I do believe that it's important, but we have a framework in place and they're going to do skate 1, 2, or 3, however that looks. And they're going to add pieces or take pieces away. And as long as they hit certain, and I tell this to them, as long as you hit certain targets within that movement, then I'm not really concerned about which ones you choose to do. Now, obviously, if I'm seeing things that are happening in plays, or if we're going to have a day where our theme is to work on east-west plays, I'll put them into those scenarios just to get them warm and ready. And then obviously you do without pucks and you do with pucks, you get a better result. But more or less, they have some creative freedom there of which of the skates they want to do. And as long as they're, like I said earlier, David Rook is a friend of mine and a very good goalie coach. And he had terminology that he used, like feet to feet movements, feet to knees movement, knees to feet movement, and knees to knees movement. And it's really universal because you have goalies from all different backgrounds and countries. And that's something that's really easy to understand. So we have a combination of those things. And as long as they hit those targets, and then obviously we have, there's different focuses with each of those, but then you're going to hit your balance drills, you're going to hit your precision drills, and then you're going to hit your edge work, and you're going to hit the things that you need to hit. And so I don't stand over top of them. Now I understand for goalie coaches of younger goaltenders, you probably need to be, more scripted and a little bit, have to demo and so on and so forth, which I do at the start of the year. But now we're at this point in the season and they probably don't even need me out there for the first 5 minutes.
So 3 different variations of warm up. You give them ownership. Those are the things you talked about in terms of, the feet to feet, feet to knees, those different elements. And then the other balance, each one of the variations has those components, but like those components need to be a part regardless of what variation they choose for that day.
Yeah, it's a focus. I mean, obviously when they first get out there and a lot of times they'll get out there and they'll go to a spot on the ice that they've kind of coined as their own, and they'll do something like that's a form of, I'm not going to call it stretching, but sort of. And then they'll get into those things. But some of the basic movements, like even when you're just in your stance and you're just doing forwards and backwards C cuts, there's an element of maintaining balance, having proper posture and being precise with your hand positioning and whatever else, your spining, all these other things. So I think, pros take it for granted because they're just so good at it and they've been doing it so long. But for younger goalies, I actually, there's an element even in the most basic of movements of having those things in them.
So a lot of the things we see, I loved watching the warm up he did today with Coachella Valley. A lot of those same principles right down to your camps with young kids in the summer.
Oh yeah, our 9U group will be doing very similar things. Obviously, there's some edge work stuff that doesn't start yet because they just don't have the strength and the power to do it. But
probably not putting 8-year-olds into the reversal quite that much.
No, it doesn't happen a lot at our camp. I know. I'm not suggesting that it shouldn't, but it doesn't at ours. And Yeah, for sure. So it's age appropriate, obviously, but that's one of the comments that's made. So after our skates in the summer, we'll get the pro guys on the ice and we tell our goalies that are in our camp that they're welcome to stay and watch, and most do. And the comment the next day is always like, "Hey, that's the drill we did the other day." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the same. NHL goalies do it too." And they just do it, a lot cleaner and a lot, with a lot better detail and whatever else. But that's what we're working towards.
I feel like I need to get you to yell that for the people in the back. The number of times that I've been lucky enough to be on the ice and watch NHLers work with NHL, with coaches like yourself. And then maybe it's in Vancouver and there's a parent there that sees it and pulls us aside and says, "Well, that's just for the video, right? You guys are just working on an article. That's not actually how they work." I'm like, no, that's just us filming. Their foundational fundamentals are still core to every, and it's not just the higher levels you get, the crazier the drills don't.
Yeah. It would be like saying that a tennis player doesn't work on their serve. Like it's, of course, like there's only so many ways that a puck gets delivered to the net. There's only so many amount of movement patterns that are necessary. And I think that, it would be crazy to think that just because you're, obviously you're the best league in the world, you're doing things at a higher pace with more precision and you're off balance a lot less and whatever else. But it would be naive to think that there's not value in continuing to work on your fundamentals.
And I wanted to bring that into the question about the way, not just the warm-ups with the drills you do, the importance of incorporating gameplay, things that you're seeing, trends in the game, whether it's overall overarching trends that you need to focus on or something you've seen maybe over a couple of weeks in your goalie's game, and bringing that as part of that as these drills as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's ultra important to have a theme, right? So you're getting on the ice, you should have, a movement in there, obviously to warm your goalies up, to get them ready to do the things that they need to do. And also because, you're moving so much in a game, you're actually only stopping the puck for a very small fraction of time. In relation to how much you're moving to get into position. So it'd be naive to think that we shouldn't be working on our movements and working on them a lot. And then the next phase of any sort of pre-practice warm-up for me is to exactly what you just said, is to have a theme. And that theme is sort of brought about based on what you're seeing early in the season. It's different because it's about getting repetition. It's about putting them into scenarios. It's about obviously, if you might have a background on your guy that there's an area that you kind of want to target early in the year just to get them more comfortable with it. Maybe they're playing with their depth. Maybe they're playing with a post setup. Maybe they're playing with more patience on their feet. So then obviously you want to ensure that you're hitting those objectives for them within your warm up as best you can. But there is a time and place to put a goalie in the butterfly in the middle of the net and just hit their hands. Absolutely, I'm not suggesting there isn't, but a lot of times, what we're trying to accomplish when we get on the ice is this is the game scenario. This is why we're doing this. And even though it's slower and it's structured, it still has a game application. And I think that's, it's a really good use of your time if you could marry those two things.
I was going to say, the goalies you have right now are also different. There is what I love the most about this position is there's no one absolute way to play it, but there are probably, I don't say non-negotiables. I don't know why that keeps coming into my vocabulary today, but there are probably foundational things that have to be applied across the board. Is movement just one of them? Like, because it doesn't matter where you move to might be different depending on your size or your, how you play the game, but just the ability to move. Is that like, what other things are sort of foundational anchors within all the differences?
Yeah. So I did something. So a few summers ago, I was just looking at a whole bunch of clips and spending some time breaking some film down. And I was like, you know what, like maybe there's an easy way to explain to a goalie, like how and why they end up in the right or wrong spot. So then a simple equation, read plus movement equals positioning. So if you read a play well and you move appropriately, you're going to like the spot that you get into. And most goals against, you'll be able to poke a hole in the read or the movement, which equaled your poor positioning. So to put it real simply, and not to oversimplify it, but your read is ultra important. The way you choose to move, whether it's on your feet, on your knees, are you beating the play on your feet because you can? Are you sliding because you can't beat the play on your feet? Did you overslide? Did you underslide? So your movement, that's going to dictate obviously like where you end up. So I think there should be a premium on helping goalies learn how to read plays. I have a belief that comes through seeing it. Like the reason why goalies get better, in my opinion, as they get older. Is there's a whole bunch of environmental factors like learning to be a pro and managing your diet and learning how to train and all those other things. But there's also just repetition and seeing a high volume of reps, seeing plays develop a certain way over and over and over again. You get that two ways. You get it by living it in practice or games, and then you get it by watching it on video of yourself or of others even. And I think that when you get to that 27, 28, 29, you've kind of seen a lot of those plays, and your read is coupled with anticipation because now you kind of are processing that potential outcome of the play. And that's what enables the really elite goalies to be early on plays. They're like, man, he was just there because he made the right read. And then you couple that with the ability to move appropriately. And now you're finding yourself in, as we say, you get your spot, and you're finding yourself in great spots more often. So I think those.
And the sooner you're there, the better positioned you are to make the next read.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the saying is like, making the save is the easy part, getting there is the hard part. And so I think that holds true. And I think, so for me, movement is such an important piece. Reads and movement combined are what separate, the best from the rest.
Okay, so I'm curious though, because you've got 3 goalies right now.
Yeah.
Not everybody can play. Obviously, we talked to Victor Osman, and he started the year in the ECHL, and increasingly that's becoming an important place for development. I love that he told me there was a goalie coach down there for him, because that's not always the case with a lot of organizations. But when there isn't a place to play or a game to play, and this is good advice for like, how do we get better at reading the game? It's a question I ask a lot of people. Like, how should kids get better at reading the game?
Yeah. To me, if you're not watching every goal in the National Hockey League from the night before the next day, then I think you're missing an opportunity to learn. And I think that we do it with our goalies. I'll find things that apply to our themes. The nice thing about watching someone else get scored on and not yourself is that it's less of a hit to our ego or to our confidence. And I think it's a really important thing. And I think you could start doing that at a young age and start to learn. I know it's the NHL, and I know it's not the same level of shots that they're seeing, but the way that plays develop are similar in a sense. And I think that, like I've watched a lot of ECHL hockey. We had Victor, in Kansas City with Jack LaFontaine, and I'm watching them. They have an awesome goalie coach there, Rob Couturier. Really, really great coach. And so we have conversations all the time. Well, guess what? The way that scoring chances are generated in the ECHL are very similar to the way that they're generated in the American League, which is very similar. Obviously the execution might be different at every level. The NHL, they do it quicker and they need less time and space to get shots off, but it's still, there's only so many ways that we can get scored on. So by watching the goals against in repetition and daily, you can learn a whole bunch of information. And you'd be sort of missing out if you weren't doing it. And I think that, all the goals from the night before, depending on how busy the night is, you're looking at 6 minutes of video. I mean, in today's day and age, 6 minutes of video for a kid that, and something they love, I don't think it's a big ask. And I think that, like I said, we do with our goalies and we have discussions about it. We looked at some traffic situations earlier in the year because we were playing with some different ideas of how to find the puck better and different things. And, now we're watching other guys get scored on. It's not us, and we can learn from it, and no one's offended.
I love it. And we're starting to hear this more, especially with younger kids. Like, we don't want to be the ones telling kids to watch more TV, but watch more hockey. And I love the idea of being able to watch, obviously I'm going to say watch pro reads and have NHL goalies break it down for you.
Well, it's good. And if it's totally true. And actually, Alex Steska and I were talking about how we watch that. So we're a professional goalie and I'm a goalie coach of this team, and we're watching pro reads because if there's probably something I can learn from, Devin Levi breaking down a play, and there's obvious. I mean, the minute you stop learning is the minute you stop growing, and then you become obsolete really fast. And so I think, yeah, you'd be crazy not to take advantage of a tool, like that that's available to you. Like, I didn't have that. I had Ben Waller, who's, one of the best goalie coaches, there ever was, obviously. And he's a fantastic human being. But he wasn't with me all the time, and so now I'm in the minors, and his priority is the guys in the NHL, as it should be. And, so I'm watching my own film and learning from it. And then that's the obvious thing. I think a lot of parents are doing that now. I just had a parent send me a an email the other day of a kid getting ready to play some spring hockey, and dad had noticed some things in his game and sent me a 20-second clip, and I emailed him back 2 or 3 points, and he showed it the kid, and the kid's working on it. I mean, I think, video is an excellent tool to learn from. I also think that you can overanalyze the game too, and you can overthink it. And I think that it's important to delineate between watch what you watch, learn from it, do it in practice, but in the game, just play. Because then otherwise you're stuck in, paralysis by analysis, right? And then now you're not moving. But I do think there's an incredible amount of value in watching video as a way to learn how to read the play better.
Look at me just giving a shameless plug for Pro Reads. I appreciate that, by the way. Last one, mentors. You've worked with, you talk about Benoit, like one of the best, as a goalie coach when you're playing. You've worked with Siggy in Calgary, Steve Briere with the Seattle Kraken. How have different influences influenced the way you approach, whether it's tactically, technically, the relationship building? Who are some of the guys? I mentioned those ones. Maybe I don't want to miss anyone. Obviously, the relationships with Carter and other guys you played with, but just the importance of mentors as you come through this.
Yeah, I think it's paramount, and I think that you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, and there's been a slew of coaches that I played for, and not only just from a technical standpoint, but also from a psychological standpoint, and just helping you learn how to be yourself on the ice and believe in yourself. And so I had a guy by the name of Paul Mackett back home in Thunder Bay, and John Adams, who was Stanley Cup winner of the Boston Bruins, and they were instrumental for me for just teaching me about confidence and how to believe in your game. And I think that was huge. And then obviously I got to pro hockey and my first and really only goalie coach, I had one other goalie coach, but Benoit Allaire. I mean, what a amazing person to learn from, and just an awesome human being. And he gave me like 5 points when I was playing for him, and I still have them in my phone. And this is like, I signed in like 2001. Like this is almost 25 years.
And they probably still apply, right?
They're totally applicable. And I'll share them with our goalies sometimes, and we'll be like, that's crazy. That's 25 years. And like these points are still, so really cool. So obviously like he was the biggest factor for me. And he was the first coach that's like basically taught me about structure in your game. I was a Steve Puck, stop puck goalie. Like I loved Dominic Hasek. I wore the helmet cheese grater in college. He wore it well. I did not. And I was like that was my guy. And that's the guy that I watched, because it's just like, it just looked different than anyone else. And then Benny came along, and I was like, oh man, this certainly is a lot easier if you do things with some structure and then within a framework. And anyways, yeah. So I think him, but I think also for me, I think you mentioned Siggy. Like Siggy's one of the nicest, most genuine people that you'll meet in the business. Yeah, an excellent guy, and always willing to help, and learned a ton from him. Steve Briere, same way, wealth of knowledge, been at it a long, long time. Just ultra good person and coach, and just a really, really, great person to work with. Yeah, I mean, you spend 5 minutes with those guys, and you come out, a lot more intelligent in the position, and they're also just really good people. And that's something else that
I was going to say, for you, it's easy to miss that, but having had a chance to meet all three of them, just genuine and generous with their time for other people, whether it's NHL guys or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that sticks out is, these guys are in the highest league, the best league in the world, and there's no ego, and there's just a genuine care for their goalies and for their staff and for making everyone around them better, which is amazing. And then I also think that you need a little bit of like a fraternity within the game, like other goalie coaches. And, I've been lucky.
It's a lonely job if you don't have people to talk to.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have a slew of those guys, and that I've worked with in previous, jobs. Like Freddie Bathwaite, obviously, is a good friend and a great person and an awesome coach. And so sometimes it's nice to have those conversations. So there's him, Pete Aubry, who's now in the college game, and Corey Cooper is now the GM of the Kingston Frontenacs. But I feel like you don't get through like the lifestyle and it is a grind. I mean, obviously it's a very fun one, but it is a grind, and you don't get through all that without, those people that you can talk to, that you can relate to, and that you can kind of, even if it's just a text message and a quick like pop in the hallway and a 10-minute conversation, with someone like I've got Mackenzie Shapsky with Calgary is another great one, Vanna Brown, like basically all the guys that you're competing against, they become, friends and in some ways mentors, because you're always learning from each other. And I think that, it's, you're not sharing your secrets on your own goalie or anything, but you're having conversations about goalies and about goaltending. And, every one of those conversations is an opportunity to get better.
Well, this conversation has made me smarter, and everybody that listened is going to enjoy it and going to take a lot of great points out of it. So, a lot longer, which is a trend with me, than I promised I would be. But thank you so much, Colin, for taking the time today. I know we're definitely going to need a part 2. We got through a lot, but I know there's just so much more there, and the passion for it and the genuineness and kindness with your time is sincerely appreciated.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be on here, and it's always great catching up with you, Kevin.
Zulianello, A to Z, we've got it covered this week.
Ooh, look at you. Yes, we do. We did.
I don't know what the A is other than you guys. Like you're awesome.
I was thinking of another word, but thanks for going that way, Derek. I appreciate it. Hey, how good was that?
I'm not going to be mean. I called you morons because of your inability to realize the advantages of wearing a dangler. That's all. You're not mean. You're just idiots.
That's right. We are the anti-Logan Thompson, who, interestingly enough, put on a dangler after taking a couple of hard ones early in the playoffs, is now wearing one in the postseason after wearing one previously in his career and abandoning it for a while. So we're not quite that bright, Darren. But Colin Zulianello is. I love that interview. So many takeaways, folks. I have a feeling that Darren's going to come back to us within the week and tell me that he went back and listened to it again.
Yeah. You saying it's immediately that valuable in your experience of the 300 plus interviews that we've done grabbed my attention right away. So, and I do love listening to them multiple times. So, between the pants and now Zulianello, I got a busy week, and I don't want Sensorino with the traffic aspect to it, that being layered onto it. I can't be more excited to get into that new aspect of Sensorino.
You know what I like about the new training program? I like the fact that the reading the release actually tells you there's one portion of the training where they say, don't try and make the save, just watch the puck. You're trying to learn all the cues from the hand and the stick blade.
Yeah.
And we've heard that from Craig Anderson before, so it's advice that resonates because he was one of the best readers of a release in the game, and he used to do that. But it also means that I don't have to worry about stopping the puck. So if I get 0 on that one, it's a good thing.
Right. You're not being judged on that.
That's right. It's important.
I'm not sure you're being judged on anything other than you're trying to train yourself. And we won't know about that until you get on the ice. And you're not going to tell us the results.
I played great on Tuesday, and I was in the Sensorino headset for half an hour before the game, so I don't think it's a coincidence. There you go. I told you. Yes. By my standards, let's be honest here. Great by my standards.
Now you
at home or in the dressing room?
Low bar. I did not take the Sensorino headset into the dressing room with about a half dozen guys that played pro in there and a bunch of junior kids. I don't know that my ego could have taken the hit. Joey has normalized it for kids. Aging ex-pros and beer leaguers tend to be a little more mean-spirited at times. So I did my Sensorino warm-up at home.
I think they're jealous.
Probably.
And if you had the opportunity to say, hey, you guys want to try this? They'd jump all over it. They would just want a different program on there.
True.
That's true. And I would, you know what I would do is I would preload the drill for them and crank it up to hard.
Yeah. You guys think this is easy?
Level 7.
Well, there's an idea for Sensorino. They should have a preloaded for your teammates drill.
Yeah, and
Quick,
everything's off the
easy
mind.
access. Yeah.
They should call it So You Think It's Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's 3 shots at once, and one of them's going off your head.
Okay, that actually would be hilarious if they did that.
This is what warm up looks against you doofuses. I'm having trouble with my positivity today. But
I don't know where you play, but when I last played, it was 3 shots at once and none of them hit the net, so it was no big deal.
inevitably one's hitting you, and it's not comfortable. Yeah. And it's never the one you're looking at that hits you. That guy always misses the net. It's the 2 coming from the other side. This has been fun today, you guys. I love this balancing act that we're doing between goaltenders being in and out, and how you get the net and how you keep the net, and the Frederick Anderson and Edmonton scenario, and Toronto, although Stolarz isn't available for Game 6, as I just get the update. So we'll see where that goes. But coaches have decisions to make, and then you get into the Zulianello conversation. It's where I'm going right now. Got a little bit of a drive ahead of me, running some errands. I'm going to listen to it again today. You guys have a great week.
And you can listen to some Mike Baker music while you're driving.
Oh, yes. We got that. Is this Behind the Mask?
Well, that's what we're going to leave this episode with.
Okay.
But there's, as I said, there's 15 more on there.
Check it out. And the details in the show notes, Behind the Mask, as we send you into the goalie universe from InGoal Radio, the podcast.
It's quiet in the crease, just me and the storm. No one hears the war when the pads get warm. Mask on, world out, nerves locked tight. I stand where heroes crack a fight. Can't blame the deed, can't hide from the shame. When it slips through, it's me to blame. Every bounce, every crossbar ring etches my story in the frozen ring. Behind the mask, I face it all. The cheers, the doubts, the sudden falls. No spotlight, just cold and sweat. I'm the calm that meets regret. I talk to pipes like they're